What's wrong? Oh, it's nothing. I am having the most agonizing headache right now. And naturally, I'll do what everyone else does. Just pop in a paracetamol. But have you ever wondered what these things contain? All sorts of chemicals and ingredients I don't know much about. But what I do know is that all these are APIs or active pharmaceutical ingredients, and that India is slowly taking over China as a manufacturing hub. Hi, I am Viral Shah and I'm here to let you in on the secret behind the big shift. But before that, let me give you some background. When manufacturing shifted from Europe to Asia due to environmental concerns, Chinese API players capitalized on the opportunity and have prospered in the last 2 decades. China had been a preferred destination to India simply due to the size of its economic zones, low borrowing costs, logistics, labor, and electricity costs. Though India is second only to China in the supply of generic drugs and vaccines, China accounted for more than half of the critical API needs of India in 2019. In fact, the import of API from China to India has climbed from as low as 1% in 1991 to a whooping 70% in 2019. However, there has been a recent turn of events similar to Europe. China also started grappling with issues such as rising pollution concerns and ineffective effluent treatment. The situation worsened after several blasts in chemical zones. In light of these events, China closed several polluting units, which forced the companies to shift their units from polluting zones to green zones. As a result of these measures, companies worldwide faced disruptions of supplies from China. These global turn of events made global companies realize that they could no longer rely on one supplier alone and brought forth the China Plus One factor. In order to ensure control over supplies, which is vital for manufacturing of formulations, several companies have opted for long-term contracts with API vendors. Indian API companies therefore benefited heavily on back of huge API volumes, higher API prices, and new customer inquiries. Indian API companies grabbed the opportunity by running massive capital expenditure programs of more than $2 billion. The shift in trend is already visible from recent US DMF filings, where India has grabbed 46% market share. India's API global share is expected to rise from current 6% to about 9 to 10% by 2025. As per Director General of Pharma Excel, there has been a 4% reduction of APIs and other raw materials from China in last 1 year. But there's more disturbing reason for the shift from China. High volume drugs such as sartans, ranitidine, metformin were found to have been laced with impurities such as nitrosodimethylamine, NDEA, NMBA, NDBA, etc. And this has led to global customers looking to procure APIs from purer pressures like India. And lastly, let's also look at the factors that may accelerate India's objective to become self-sufficient over the next few years. Addressing India's over-reliance on imports from China, Indian companies have backward integrated into key starting materials, intermediates, and APIs. High cost of production in China owing to increased labor costs, GMP compliance, and environmental issues. Increase in costs of APIs imported from China. The government of India, via its PLI scheme, allocated Rs 30 billion for 3 bulk drug parks and 69.4 billion rupees for manufacturing of 53 critical APIs, drugs, steroids, vitamins over the next 8 years. China is the biggest API player with 30% market share globally at $59 billion and is expected to grow at 8% CAGR over the next 6 years to $90.8 billion. Whereas the Indian API market is expected to grow at a CAGR of 14% over the next 6 years from $11.1 billion to $24.1 billion. Considering these factors, even a small percentage shift from China to India for API would create a huge windfall for Indian API companies. Given these structural tailwinds, the Indian API companies are estimated to grow their earnings in excess of 20% plus over the next 3 years All the smart investors who invest at current valuation will be the beneficiaries of this multi-year upcycle in the sector. This is Viral Shah signing off and heading to a drugstore. I'll be back soon with some interesting Indian API players we researched recently. In the meantime, happy investing. Please do not consider this as a recommendation. We suggest investors conduct their own analysis and research or consult a financial advisor before investing.